I was gutting bait in the dark when the first cold spray came over the side and hit the back of my hand. The deck lights were on, but they only lit the cutting board and the bucket at my feet. Everything past that was black water, black sky, and the occasional pale line of foam where the boat moved through it. The bait was herring, stiff from the cooler and slippery once I cut into it. I worked the knife down the belly, pulled out the guts, and dropped the fish into the bucket. It was 4 a.m, which was an unpleasant time to discover how much of your life depended on being awake. Leon stood in the wheelhouse with one hand on the wheel, steering the Marguerite away from the harbor and toward the open water near the mouth of the Kennebec. I could see his shape through the glass, along with the dim glow from the instruments. I had taken the job because I had flunked my spring semester and wrecked Dad's car, which meant I owed him $2,000. I hadn't told either of my parents that I had no idea what I was going to do after college. That part had seemed harder to explain than the car. The cash from the boat was supposed to fix some of it. I would work the season, put money in an envelope, and pay Dad back. After that, I would figure out the rest. That was the plan anyway. Leon came down from the wheelhouse and stepped around the bait tubs. He looked at the fish I was cutting, then at the loose line near the stern.
"Keep that line clear,"
he said. "It's clear."
"It's beside your boot."
I looked down. A short length of warp had worked loose from one of the coils and was lying across the deck near my foot. I moved it back with my heel. "Better?"
"Now it is."
He picked up one of the bait bags and showed me how to twist the mouth closed before securing it. I had been tying them too loosely, which meant the bait would wash out before the traps had time to do anything useful.
"You want it tight enough to hold,"
he said.
"Not so tight you can't get it open."
I nodded and tried again. Leon watched me for a moment, then went back toward the wheelhouse. He stopped before climbing the steps.
"And the other rule?"
I looked at him. "There's only one rule?"
"The boat's got one rule that matters."
I waited.
"If a buoy line comes up frayed clean through, instead of cut or chewed, we drop the whole string and head back. Doesn't matter how full the traps are. Doesn't matter if you can see lobsters crawling through the vents. We leave it."
I glanced at the coils of line stacked beside the rail. "That happens?"
"It happened to my father."
"When?"
1978.
He said it like the year itself should have been enough explanation. I waited for more, and eventually he gave it to me.
"He dropped a string off Seguin Island and came back with a stranger."
I laughed because I thought he was joking. Leon made jokes about almost everything, especially when the work was wet or cold or taking longer than it should have. He didn't laugh with me. The boat engine filled the space between us. Leon kept looking at me, and I stopped smiling. "You're serious?"
"If the line's frayed clean through, we drop the string and go back to harbor."
"Because your father came back with a stranger?"
"That's the rule."
He climbed into the wheelhouse. I looked at the line beside my boot, then at the water moving past the stern. It was too dark to see much of anything, which made the story feel less like a joke than it had a minute earlier. Leon treated most of the work as if it were simple enough to do with his eyes closed, but he checked every replacement line himself. He ran his thumb along the cut ends and turned them over to look at the strands. The cuts were clean, made with a knife. He never let me put one in the gear without checking it first. During the first 3 weeks of June, I learned how to band lobster claws without getting pinched, how to measure shorts, and how to clear a snarled length of warp without making the knot worse. I learned that fog around the outer islands didn't always arrive as a wall. Sometimes it came in thin pieces, and sometimes the water disappeared before the sky did. We worked past Seguin Island, where the bottom dropped away beyond the ledge and the sonar couldn't find it. Leon said that was normal. He said it like the ocean was allowed to have places where it stopped answering questions. Most days we worked without talking much. Leon would steer while I handled the gear, and then we would switch jobs when he decided I was getting too comfortable. When I fumbled a trap coming aboard, he used the marine radio to talk to me from 6 feet away.
"Take your time, cousin,"
he said one afternoon.
"The lobsters aren't in a hurry.
"I've got it."
You've had it for about 30 seconds now."
The trap swung against the rail. I caught the line and pulled it in, trying not to let him see how hard I was working. "Got it," I said.
"Sure you do."
He left the radio on long enough for me to hear him. Each afternoon, I sent Mom photographs of the catch from the dock. I took pictures of the lobsters piled in the crates, their claws banded and their shells dark and wet, then sent them before I started cleaning the deck. Mom usually answered with something about the size of them or whether I was eating enough. She didn't ask about school very often. I appreciated that. I counted the lobster money into an envelope for Dad at the end of each week. The bills smelled like salt and diesel, and sometimes there was a smear of bait on one corner. I kept counting anyway, smoothing each bill flat before putting it inside. I had already given everyone enough reasons to call me a failure. I didn't want to give them another one. On Tuesday, June 25th, the weather turned gray before we reached the deep ledge past Seguin. The sky and the water had nearly the same color, and the fog kept thickening around us in low, shifting patches. It was not heavy enough to stop the trip, at least not according to Leon, but it made the boat feel smaller. The first buoy came up normally. Leon slowed the Marguerite while I brought the line aboard. The rope was wet and cold, and it pulled steadily against my gloves. Nothing caught or dragged. The trap came over the rail with the usual weight, and I set it where Leon pointed. The second buoy rose cleanly, then the third. By the fourth, the fog had closed in enough that I could no longer see the open water behind the boat. Leon kept turning his head toward it anyway. "What are you looking at?" I asked.
Water.
"I can see that."
Then you're all set.
The fifth buoy surfaced with its line intact. Leon watched it come aboard, but he didn't make a joke. He stood near the throttle with his shoulders slightly raised. I went back to the bait and checked the bags. The knots were holding. The deck was wet beneath my boots, and small pieces of herring skin had stuck to the cutting board. Leon looked toward the open water again. "Is the fog getting worse?" I asked.
It's fog.
That doesn't answer me.
It'll lift.
He said it casually, but he kept looking behind us. The sixth buoy rose slowly. At first I only saw the top of it, pale against the gray. Then the line came up, dragging water from below. It was frayed clean through, the strands splayed and softened, with no knife marks and no tooth marks. I hauled the line aboard while water streamed from it and kept it steady as the rest slid across the deck toward me. The strands were splayed and softened, not cut or chewed. The pale fibers fanned out from the torn end. The lower section was still attached to the trap, which made no sense because the trap was small enough for a lobster and nothing much bigger. Leon looked at it for a second.
Drop it.
He said.
Drop the trap and the rest of the string.
I started to lower the line, but he reached past me toward the trap hatch instead of the throttle. "You said we leave it," I said.
I know what I said.
"That's the rule."
It's still the rule, cousin.
His hand went to the latch. I kept hold of the line because he hadn't told me to let go, and because the boat was moving just enough that the rope pulled against my gloves. The fog had closed around us. I couldn't see the other buoys or the water beyond the stern, only the deck lights shining on the wet boards, and the trap sitting open near my knees. Leon lifted the hatch. Something pale shifted inside. At first I thought it was bait, or a torn piece of netting caught in the trap. Then it moved again, folding itself against the back wall. It was too large for the space, but it seemed to be making itself smaller. Its body pressed into a shape that the trap could hold. Leon leaned over it. "Don't," I said. He didn't answer. He put one hand on the edge of the trap and started to reach inside. The pale shape turned its head. It looked toward Leon first, then toward me. Its face was wet and white in the deck light, with a narrow nose that had been broken in the same place as Leon's. Water ran down its cheek and gathered at its jaw. One arm unfolded from beneath its body, and the anchor tattoo showed on the forearm. I stopped breathing. The thing kept unfolding. Its shoulder came up against the hatch. Its back bent out of the trap, and then its legs pushed forward, extending over the rim despite the trap's narrow sides. It had Leon's face. It had Leon's tattoo. The skin was pale enough that I could see blue lines beneath it, and it smelled like the bottom of a drained tide pool. Leon jerked back and grabbed the gaff. The thing came over the rail. He swung before it could get both hands onto the deck. The hook struck its shoulder with a wet, heavy sound, and the force of it drove Leon sideways into the open trap. The thing reached for him and closed its fingers around the front of his jacket. I let go of the line. It dropped hard against the deck, and the loose coils slid toward the stern. I tried to step back, but my boot caught in the rope. Leon and the pale body slammed into the side of the boat, knocking the trap against the rail.
Get off me!
Leon said. The thing made a sound that was almost his voice. The gaff came up again. Leon struck it across the side of the head and the body bent away from him. Spray burst over the rail and hit my face. I wiped at my eyes, but the fog and the water had turned the deck lights into yellow smears. I heard Leon shouting, though I couldn't make out all the words. I heard the metal hook scrape against the rail. Something hit the deck beside me, hard enough to shake the boards under my boots. Then there was a heavy splash. The boat rocked beneath us. Water ran across the deck and through the scuppers. I fell against the bait tub and held onto its rim until the movement passed. When I looked up, one Leon stood beside the open trap with the gaff in his hand. The other one was gone. Leon's jacket was torn at the shoulder. He had a dark mark along his cheek, though I couldn't tell if it was blood or mud. He looked at me, then at the rope lying between us.
Coil the line,
he said. I didn't move.
Kingston!
I looked over the rail. The water below was gray and empty, chopped by the wake and the rain of spray. I couldn't see a body. I couldn't see anything past the side of the boat. Which one went over? I asked. Leon stared at me.
What?
Which one went over? He rubbed the back of his hand across his cheek.
Coil the line.
You opened the trap.
Get the line coiled, cousin.
I saw.
Close the trap and get us back to harbor.
His voice sounded the way it always did when he wanted me to stop asking questions. He spoke in the same flat, practical tone he used when telling me to move a bait bag or clear a line from the stern. I saw 2 Leons on that boat. One of them had come out of a trap that was too small to hold him, and one of them went over the side. I couldn't prove which one I was looking at. The Marguerite was alone beyond Seguin Island. The fog was thick around us, and I was still tangled in the line. I pulled the rope toward me and started coiling it. The line was cold through my gloves. I worked it into loose circles and set them beside the rail while Leon dragged the trap hatch shut. He secured the latch, then stepped over the rope and went to the wheelhouse. I followed him after I had gathered the last length. The engine was still running. The instruments glowed green and orange in the dark, and the windshield had fogged along the edges. Leon took the wheel with one hand and pushed the throttle forward with the other.
You all right?
He asked. I sat beside him instead of answering. He looked at me.
You hit your head?
No.
Then you're all right.
I watched his hands. They were wet and covered in black grit. He rinsed them in the small sink beside the controls, rubbing his fingers together beneath the stream of water. The dirt came away in thin gray trails, but some of it stayed beneath his fingernails. He smelled like low-tide flats and rotting seaweed. The smell filled the wheelhouse even with the door cracked open. I had smelled it before on traps that had sat too long in the mud, and on old rope pulled up from places where the tide barely moved. It was not the smell Leon usually carried. He smelled like diesel, salt, and bait. He dried his hands on a rag and put them back on the wheel. What happened? I asked.
The fog rolled in.
That's not what I meant. He looked through the windshield.
We had a rough haul.
You opened the trap.
It was stuck.
It wasn't stuck. He didn't say anything. The boat moved through the fog toward the harbor. I kept looking behind us, but the stern disappeared almost as soon as it passed the wheelhouse windows. Every few minutes I thought I saw something pale in the wake. Each time it turned out to be foam. Leon kept steering. He used the same phrases he had used before, telling me to watch the throttle and keep the line clear. Once, when I asked him whether he had seen the body in the water, he told me there was no body in the water. What went over then?
You're tired.
I'm not tired.
You're cold.
That doesn't answer me.
It doesn't need to.
The marine radio crackled before I could ask anything else. Static filled the wheelhouse, followed by Mom's voice.
Leon, can you hear me?
Leon reached for the radio.
We're coming in.
He said.
Is everything all right? I saw the fog settle over the ledge.
Everything's fine.
Did you have trouble with the gear?
Nothing worth talking about.
There was a pause on the other end. I could hear the faint hiss of the radio between her words.
Kingston is with you?
Leon looked at me. I stared through the windshield.
Kingston's here.
He said.
Kingston, are you all right?
I kept my mouth shut.
Kingston?
Leon adjusted the radio volume.
He's tired.
I can hear him.
Mom said.
Kingston, please answer me.
I wanted to tell her. I wanted to say that Leon had opened the trap, that something with Leon's face had climbed out, that I didn't know who was beside me. But the words stopped somewhere below my throat. Leon held the radio close to his mouth.
It was an ordinary trip, Connie.
He said.
Nothing happened.
Mom was quiet for another moment.
Please come straight home.
We're going to the berth.
Leon?
The radio clicked, and the channel filled with static again. Leon set it back in its holder. I looked at him. He didn't look back. The harbor came out of the fog slowly, first as a few yellow lights and then as dark shapes along the shore. The sky had lightened while we were gone, though the morning still looked gray and unfinished. Leon guided the Marguerite between the floats and slowed near our berth. I went forward with the line. My gloves were still wet, and the rope dragged against my palms as I pulled it around the cleat. I made the first turn, then another, keeping the berth line tight while the boat nudged against the dock. Leon shut down the engine and picked up the gaff. He stepped onto the dock with it in his hand, carrying it away from the boat while I finished the berth line. By late that night, the harbor had gone quiet, and the fog had lifted. I had spent the afternoon unloading gear, answering questions I didn't ask, and trying not to watch Leon too closely when other people were around. The dock house was warmer than the boat, but it still smelled like wet rope and old coffee. Leon had washed at the sink in the corner, changing out of his torn jacket and into a dry shirt. The smell of low-tide flats stayed with him anyway. It clung to the room and mixed with the salt on the floorboards, and I could still see black grit beneath his fingernails when he picked up his cup. I sat across from him at the small table and watched him drink. He looked like Leon. The broken nose was in the same place. The shape of his jaw was the same, and the anchor tattoo ran along his forearm where it always had. His hair was still damp from washing, and he kept rubbing one hand over it while he talked. He talked the way Leon talked when he wanted a person to stop noticing something. He made a joke about the harbor master's truck, then another about the gulls stealing bait from the dock. He told the story about the time a lobster got loose in the wheelhouse and hid under the throttle, though he had told me that story so many times that I knew which part he would exaggerate and where he would wait for me to laugh. I laughed in the right places. It was strange how easy that was. The words came out of his mouth in Leon's voice, and my body knew what to do.
You still can't tie a bait bag.
He said.
I can tie one.
You can tie one that comes loose.
That happened once.
Once is enough when the bait washes out. He said it with the same flat amusement he had used on the boat. I could picture him standing beside the bait tubs, holding the bag up for me to look at. I could hear the engine behind him and the slap of water against the hull. I looked down at his hands. The black grit was still there. What happened to the trap? I asked. Leon took another drink.
The trap was stuck.
It wasn't stuck.
Then it was having a bad morning.
I saw something come out. He looked at me for a moment, and then he smiled like I had made a joke he didn't want to encourage.
You saw a trap come aboard.
I saw you open it.
You were busy with the line.
I was looking right at you.
That's probably your first mistake.
He leaned back in the chair. The legs scraped against the floor, and the sound seemed too loud in the small room. I could still feel the rope tugging through my gloves. I could still see the pale shape turning its head inside the trap. I had not told anyone what I saw. There had been too many people at the berth, too many questions about the torn jacket and the missing line, and no way to explain the rest without hearing how it sounded myself. I knew how this sounds. I had been carrying it around all day. I saw two of you, I said. Leon's smile disappeared, but only for a second.
You're tired, cousin.
I'm not tired.
You were up before daylight.
That doesn't answer me.
It doesn't need to.
He picked up the cup again and looked into it.
Get some sleep. By morning, this'll seem less exciting.
Which one went overboard? He set the cup down. For a while, neither of us said anything. The refrigerator hummed behind me, then clicked off. Somewhere outside, a halyard knocked against a mast in a slow, uneven rhythm. Leon rubbed his thumb along the side of his cup.
Nobody went overboard.
I heard the splash.
Water splashes.
Something hit the deck.
The trap hit the deck.
It had your face. He looked at me then, not angrily. That would have been easier. He looked tired and a little entertained, like I had gotten hold of the wrong end of a story and was refusing to let go.
You've been working too hard.
He said. That isn't Leon. His face tightened. I didn't mean to say it that way, but once it was out, I couldn't take it back. The man sitting across from me had Leon's clothes, Leon's voice, Leon's hands. He knew which stories I knew and which jokes would make me answer him. He also smelled like something that had been pulled from the bottom and left in the sun. Leon stood and carried his cup to the sink.
Get some sleep.
What happened to the line? He rinsed the cup without looking at me.
What line?
The buoy line. The one that was frayed clean through. He turned off the water.
That line was bad.
He said. You told me to drop it.
I told you to drop the string.
You opened the trap.
It was stuck.
It wasn't stuck. He dried the cup and put it upside down beside the sink. He did everything carefully, setting the cloth straight and pushing the cup back from the edge.
Frayed clean through. We dropped the string.
He said. He said it in Leon's familiar voice, with the same weight he had given the rule the first week I worked on the boat. Frayed clean through, we dropped the string, I repeated.
That's right.
And then we go back to harbor.
That's what we did.
Which one of you went overboard? Leon picked up the cloth and folded it once.
There was no one else on the boat.
I watched his hands fold the cloth again. You know what I'm asking.
I know you're asking a lot of questions for a man who should be asleep.
You don't smell right. He looked at me. I had not planned to say that either. I was scared and tired of finding other ways to say the same thing. Leon glanced down at his shirt.
I washed.
I know.
Maybe the soap's bad.
It isn't the soap. He put the cloth over the edge of the sink.
You want me to wash again?
No.
Good, because I'm not doing it.
It sounded like him. Leon had always made jokes when he was irritated, and he had always acted like concern was something a person could solve by refusing to discuss it. I thought about the line beneath my bunk. After we came back, I had taken the frayed section from the coil while Leon was inside the wheelhouse. I had wrapped it in an old towel and carried it into the dock house without letting anyone see. There was nothing else left from the morning that could prove what I had seen. The jacket he wore was torn. The mud on his hands had washed away mostly. The trap was shut, and whatever had been inside it was gone. The line was the only thing I had. I went to the bunk and crouched beside it. The room was dark beneath the frame, but I could see the edge of the bucket where I had pushed it back against the wall. The line sat inside beneath the towel. I had checked twice to make sure it was still there. Leon watched me from the sink.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
You're making a lot of noise for nothing.
I slid the bucket farther beneath the bunk. I'm going to sleep.
That's the best idea you've had tonight.
I stood up and looked at him. You're Leon? He stared at me. I waited for him to laugh. I waited for him to say something about me being an idiot, or about the long day, or about the fact that I had been hit in the head by a trap. He had plenty of ways to make me feel stupid without raising his voice. Instead, he said,
You know me, cousin.
That was not an answer. He reached for his jacket and put it on, though the room was warm enough without it. The torn place at the shoulder pulled apart when he moved his arm. I watched the dark cloth separate, then watched him turn away from me. Where are you going? I asked.
Outside.
Why?
To check something.
What? He looked back over his shoulder.
The boat's still there, Kingston.
I know the boat's there.
Then you're ahead of me.
He opened the door and stepped onto the dock. Cold air came into the room around him. It carried the smell of salt and fuel. He left the door open for a few seconds before pulling it shut. I stayed beside the bunk. Pipes clicked in the wall. The refrigerator came on again, and the boards creaked whenever the wind moved beneath the building. I took off my boots and lay down fully dressed, keeping one arm close to the edge of the bunk so I could feel the bucket if I needed to. I didn't sleep. I kept hearing the splash from the boat, followed by Leon's voice telling me to coil the line. Every time I started to drift, I saw the pale face turn toward me inside the trap. I saw the broken nose and the anchor tattoo. Then the wet skin stretched over the shape of Leon's face. Once, something moved outside the dockhouse. I held still and listened. The sound came from the boards near the berth, followed by a slow step and the scrape of something against the wall. I thought Leon might come back in, but the door stayed shut. He didn't come back before morning. I stayed awake until the sky outside the dockhouse turned from black to gray, listening to the building settle and the wind move against the walls. At 3, I heard footsteps on the dock. They went from one end to the other and then back again, slow enough that I could picture him walking with his hands in his pockets. Leon never walked around when he couldn't sleep. He went to bed, or he sat in the wheelhouse with the radio on, or he made coffee and complained about the weather. The steps stopped outside the door. I held still and waited for the latch to move. It didn't. A few minutes later, he started walking again. By morning, there was a plate of eggs and toast on the table. I had made it and watched Leon refuse it. The eggs cooled beside the toast. The coffee went dark in the pot. Leon stood near the bait barrels with both hands resting on the rim of one. He looked tired from working too long, but his movements were steady. Not like he'd been awake all night. His shoulders were straight. His eyes were clear. He had changed into dry clothes, and the torn place in his jacket had been covered with another shirt. I watched him lower his face to the barrel and drink. The bait brine was a cloudy liquid left over from soaking herring. It smelled like salt, fish blood, and the inside of an old cooler. Leon drank it in long pulls, stopping only to breathe through his nose. "That's not coffee," I said. He lifted his head. Brine ran from the corner of his mouth and down into his beard.
Good thing I didn't ask for coffee.
"You've got eggs.
I can see that.
You aren't eating them."
I had something.
I looked at the barrel. "You had bait brine." He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand.
Frayed clean through. We dropped the string.
He said it in Leon's voice, but the words came out flat. "That isn't an answer."
It wasn't a question worth answering, cousin.
He picked up the plate and carried it to the edge of the table. For a second, I thought he might sit down. Instead, he set the plate beside the bait knife and went back to the barrel. The Marguerite was tied at the dock, and there was no trip scheduled. Pedro had posted the landings for the week on the board by the harbor office, and our name wasn't on the morning list. Even if it had been, Leon wouldn't have been preparing the boat before breakfast. He stood at the wheelhouse door while I checked the fuel line.
Pedro wants the landing numbers before noon.
He said, "Pedro knows we aren't going out."
We're going out a little way.
"For what?" He looked past me toward the ledge. The water was calm inside the harbor, though the sky over the open water had the same dull gray color it had worn the day before.
The moorings need checking.
"There isn't a trip."
Didn't say there was.
I followed him onto the dock. He untied the stern line, started the engine, and stepped aboard before I could ask anything else. The diesel shook through the planks beneath my boots. I climbed into the wheelhouse after him. "What moorings?"
The ones near the ledge.
"Why are we checking them?"
Because they need checking.
He pushed the throttle forward. The boat eased away from the dock, and the harbor opened around us in strips of dark water and pale morning light. I watched the bait barrels behind him through the open door. "Are you going to set gear?"
No.
"Then why are you bringing the boat?" He kept his eyes on the water.
You ask a lot of questions for someone who didn't eat breakfast.
"I made breakfast."
That was your first mistake.
The joke was in the right place, and the words had the same rough shape they always had when he wanted to make me stop. The boat headed for Seguin. I could see the ledge ahead through the windshield, a dark line beneath the low sky. Leon kept the engine running as we reached the outer mooring floats. He went below without telling me what he was doing, and I started to follow.
Stay there.
He said. I want to see the gear.
You don't need to.
I work the gear.
You work what I tell you to work.
I stopped at the top of the steps. The engine idled beneath us, and the hull lifted and dropped against the small waves. Leon stayed below for less than a minute. When he came back, his hands were empty. What did you check? I asked.
The moorings.
Which ones? He looked at me.
You know, cousin, frayed clean through. We dropped the string.
He said the rule again, but this time it sounded almost amused. Now he made it sound like something we had agreed on together. I went out onto the deck and looked at the gear stacked beside the rail. The regular traps were tied down in a row, each one marked and ready for work. Beside them sat another trap I had never seen before. It was smaller than the others. A full-grown man could not have folded himself inside it, and there wasn't enough room for a lobster either. The wire sides were new and bright, without the rust that showed along the older traps. There was no bait bag attached to it. Leon carried it to the dock when we got back. What is that for? I asked.
Nothing.
Then why did you bring it? He set it down beside the regular gear.
It's a trap.
It doesn't have bait.
Not every trap needs bait.
I stared at him. He looked toward the harbor office as Pedro came out carrying a clipboard. Pedro stopped when he saw the boat.
All right, you early.
Morning, Edward.
Leon said. Pedro frowned.
Ethan, not Edward. You know that.
Leon nodded immediately.
Pedro, right. I meant Pedro.
He looked down at the clipboard instead.
I need the landing numbers before noon.
Pedro said.
You'll have them.
And the berth line on the east side is loose.
I'll take care of it.
Pedro looked at him for a moment, then at me. I had expected him to notice something. I wanted him to ask why Leon had gone toward the ledge with no fishing trip planned, or why there was a small empty trap sitting on the dock. He only said,
All right.
and walked toward the office. Leon picked up the small trap and moved it closer to the shed. I called Mom from inside the dock house. She answered on the fourth ring.
Kingston?
Mom, I need you to listen to me.
I am listening.
The man on the boat isn't Leon. There was a pause. I could hear something running in the background, maybe a faucet.
Kingston, what are you saying?
I know how this sounds, but I saw two of him. One came out of the trap, the other went overboard. The one who came back. That's not Leon.
Did you hit your head?
No,
Did you sleep at all?
that isn't the point.
You've been working nights and days, Kingston. You failed your classes, you wrecked the car, and you owe your father money. You can't keep making decisions like this and then expect everyone to pretend nothing is wrong.
I gripped the phone tighter. I didn't make this up.
I didn't say you did.
You think I'm confused?
I think you need to come home to Brunswick.
Mom,
Come home, Kingston. Please. Let me call Remy and have him come get you.
I don't need Dad to come get me.
You need to leave the harbor.
He'll know where I am.
Who will?
I looked through the window. Leon stood beside the bait shed with the small trap at his feet. Leon. My mother was quiet.
Kingston,
She said, softer this time.
tell me plainly what happened out there.
I could not tell her plainly. I could tell her the line had been frayed clean through, that Leon had opened the trap, and that the thing inside had his face and tattoo. None of it sounded like something a person should say over the phone to his mother in the morning. I saw something come out, I said.
Something.
I closed my eyes. I don't know what it was.
Then you need to let someone help you.
I'm trying to help you.
Please come home.
I ended the call before she could say anything else. Luna answered when I called her. Her voice was sharper than Mom's.
What did you do?
Is Leon with you?
He's at the harbor.
Then you know.
I know you're accusing him again.
I am not accusing him. That isn't Leon.
Stop saying that.
I watched him go overboard.
You watched him go back to sea after June 25th.
I watched someone go back to sea.
Kingston, stop.
I saw two Leons. One came out of the trap, and one went over the side. The line was frayed clean through, just like Leon's rule. Frayed clean through, we dropped the string. Luna didn't answer right away.
He came home.
she said. That doesn't make him Leon.
You were there when he came back.
I know what I saw.
You watched him walk into the harbor.
He smelled wrong. He doesn't eat. He drinks bait brine out of the barrel.
Let us help you.
How?
Come away from the boat. I'll meet you at the harbor.
I can't leave him here.
You're making this worse.
Something is wrong with him.
Stop accusing Leon and let us help you.
I didn't see what went overboard.
Then you don't know what happened.
I know it wasn't him. There was a long silence, and when she spoke again, her voice had gone lower.
Did you sleep?
No,
You need medical help.
I don't need a doctor.
You need someone to look at you.
I need you to believe me.
Kingston, if you stop accusing Leon and let us help you, I'll come to the harbor.
I looked through the window again. Leon had gone inside the bait shed. I have to go, I said.
Kingston,
I ended the call and set the phone on the table. For a while I stood there with both hands against the edge of the table. The room smelled like coffee and fish and the cold air coming under the door. The Marguerite's engine ran outside, though I hadn't seen Leon start it again. Then I heard something scrape across the bait shed floor. I went outside. The shed window was covered in grime, and I had to wipe a circle through it with my sleeve before I could see inside. The dock cat was lying on the floor near the bait barrels. It had been opened across the body, the fur dark and wet around the wound. Leon was crouched over it. He held the cat in both hands and drank from the open body. I stood outside the shed with my hand against the dirty glass. He lifted his head without stopping. His eyes were dark and flat, and he looked directly at me. The wrong Leon kept the dead cat in his hands and smiled at me through the bait shed window. I backed away from the bait shed, keeping my eyes on Leon through the dirty glass. He stayed crouched over the cat, holding it against his chest with both hands. There was blood on his shirt and something dark around his mouth, but his face looked calm. I didn't wait for him to come outside. The gaff was still in my hand when I crossed the dock. I pulled the door shut behind me and turned the lock, then stood there with my back against it while the room settled around me. The bait floor reeked of herring and diesel. Somewhere beneath the building, water moved against the pilings. For a few seconds, I listened for the door to open. Nothing happened. I went to the window instead. The Marguerite sat at the berth with the lines still tied, and Remy's car was parked beyond the harbor office. The driver's door had never shut right after the damage, so it sat a little higher than the other side. I had thought about taking it and driving home before Leon could stop me. The boat keys were gone. I checked the hook beside the desk, then the shelf below it, even though I knew Leon had taken them. He had been holding them when he came to the door. He had kept one hand in his jacket pocket while he talked to me, and every so often the keys made a small metal sound against the fabric. I went outside anyway. Leon was standing near the bait shed by then. The cat was no longer in his hands. He turned toward the dock house as I stepped away from the door.
Where are you going, cousin?
Home.
You don't have the keys.
I'll take the car.
You won't.
I kept walking toward the harbor road. He moved in front of me without hurrying, placing himself between me and the only clear path out. I need to leave.
Luna's coming.
I'm not waiting for Luna.
She wants to talk to you.
She can talk to me at home. Leon glanced toward the road. The harbor was quiet except for the engine noise from a truck somewhere past the sheds.
You called her and then stopped answering.
I called her because you're not Leon. He looked tired, but not surprised. He had the same expression he had worn at the table the night before, when he acted like my questions were a problem caused by lack of sleep.
You're making this worse.
What did you tell her?
That you're having a hard time.
What did you tell her? He rubbed one hand along the side of his jaw. His fingers were clean now. The black grit beneath his nails was gone, though I could still smell the bait shed on him.
I told her about the trip on June 25th.
He said.
I told her you haven't slept since. I told her you've been talking about the trap and the line and somebody going overboard.
I had not told Luna any of that. I had told her I saw 2 Leons, but not about the frayed line. I never mentioned what Leon said after the splash, or how he had kept repeating the rule. You didn't hear those things from her.
I heard them from you.
Not all of them.
You've been saying plenty.
The answer was too easy. He had been listening to me when I talked to Mom. He had been close enough to hear the call with Luna, too. But he had known things before then. He had known what I had said inside, what I had carried from the boat, and what I had kept to myself. The door behind me opened. I turned fast, but Leon had only reached past me and pulled it wider. His hand stayed on the edge of the door.
Go inside.
He said, "I'm leaving."
You can wait inside for Luna.
"You're blocking me."
Because you're not thinking straight.
He didn't raise his voice. If he had shouted, I could have told myself that the anger belonged to something else. Instead, he stood there with his shoulders loose and his face familiar, acting like he was doing me a favor. I went back inside. The gaff was still in my hand. The metal hook knocked against the doorframe. His eyes went to it.
Put that away.
No.
Kingston!
I moved toward the back room. The gaff was long enough that I had to turn it sideways to get through the doorway. Leon followed me 2 steps, then stopped when I raised it. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said.
I didn't say you were.
"You're acting like it."
I'm acting like a man who doesn't want you waving a hook around in a building full of glass.
The back room had thick lobster tanks along 2 walls. They were empty for the season, though a shallow film of water covered the bottoms and made the glass look cloudy. The tanks separated the room from the bait floor, leaving only the narrow door behind me and the rear door opening onto the harbor road. I shut that door and slid the bolt across it. Leon watched from the other side of the tanks.
You planning to stay in there?
Until Luna gets here.
She's not coming to fight you.
I know.
You don't.
I set the gaff against the wall where I could reach it. Through the glass, the bait floor looked warped and yellow. The small empty trap sat near the tubs. It was the same one Leon had brought back from the ledge, new wire and no bait, its narrow opening facing toward the room. It had been moved. When I had seen it before, it was beside the regular traps near the shed. Now it sat only a few feet from the tank glass. Fresh line ran from its top and disappeared behind the bait barrels. The trap was large enough for a person if they folded themselves tightly enough. The opening faced the bed. I looked at Leon. "You moved that."
It's a trap.
It wasn't there before.
You're seeing things.
I can see the line.
Then you can see it's not your business.
I stayed in the back room until I heard a car come up the harbor road. Tires cracked over loose gravel, then stopped near the office. A door shut. Leon turned toward the sound.
Luna,
he said. I stepped closer to the tanks. Luna came into view between the buildings, walking quickly with her jacket pulled tight around her. She faced the dock house, then the bait shed. Leon went out to meet her. He didn't come toward the glass. He walked to the shed instead, keeping the building between himself and the door. Luna stopped several feet away from him.
Where is Kingston?
She asked.
he's inside.
Why didn't he answer?
He took the phone.
Did he hurt himself?
No.
Then why is he locked in there?
Leon looked back at the dock house.
He thinks something happened on the boat.
What happened?
He hasn't been sleeping. He keeps saying the trap opened and somebody wearing my face came out of it.
Luna went still. Leon continued before she could answer.
He says I went overboard on June 25th. Says the line was frayed clean through and I should have dropped the string. He's been carrying this around since the trip, and now he's got the gaff.
I had not told Luna about the gaff. I stepped toward the door. Luna, listen to me. She looked over at the dock house. Leon moved in front of her.
Don't go near him,
He said.
He's frightened.
I'm not frightened.
Luna kept looking at the door.
Kingston, come outside.
That isn't Leon. Leon glanced at her, and his expression changed just enough for me to see the calculation behind it. Then he turned back toward me.
You hear him?
He said,
He's been saying that since yesterday.
You know what happened.
Kingston, stop.
He opened the trap. Luna took a step toward the dock house. Leon reached out and caught her by the arm.
Let us talk first.
Let go of me!
He released her immediately, but stayed between her and the door.
Luna, I'm all right.
He said. He isn't. I had spent the whole night looking for a difference in the way he held his head or moved his hands. Luna had known him longer than I had been alive. If he looked at her with Leon's eyes and spoke in Leon's voice, she had no reason to choose my story over his. "Luna," I said, "I know how this sounds, but—"
I know how it sounds.
she said.
You're upset.
"He isn't Leon.
Stop saying that.
He came out of the trap.
You told me that.
The other one went overboard.
You don't know that.
I saw it.
You saw Leon go back to sea.
That wasn't him." She pressed her lips together and looked toward the road.
I'm coming back with Connie and the police.
"Don't leave.
I'm not leaving you here by yourself.
He'll keep me inside." Leon looked at her.
I'll keep him inside until help arrives.
The words made Luna turn toward him.
Don't say it like that.
She said.
I'm not locking him in. I'm keeping him from running into the road with a gaff.
I'm not going to hurt anyone.
Then come out peacefully.
I gripped the handle of the gaff. "You have to believe me before it comes back." Luna's face tightened.
What comes back?
Leon answered for me.
He keeps talking about the trap.
"Stop talking about me," I said.
Kingston, let us help you.
"You don't understand."
Then explain it without accusing him,
"I can't explain it.
because you don't know what happened.
I know what I saw." She shook her head.
You need to come home.
"I can't.
You can. You're choosing not to.
I'm trying to keep you safe.
From Leon?
From whatever he is." Her eyes filled with anger, though she still didn't look afraid.
Stop accusing Leon and let us help you.
I looked at the man standing beside her. He had one hand resting on the bait shed door and the other hanging loose beside his leg. Luna stepped backward toward the road.
I'll be back with Connie.
She said.
And the police.
"Luna."
Come out peacefully, Kingston.
"I can't."
Then stay inside.
She turned and walked away. Leon watched her go until she disappeared past the harbor office. Then he pulled the door shut from the outside. I heard the lock turn. The room grew quiet again. I carried the gaff into the back room and pushed a chair under the inside handle of the door. It wasn't much of a barricade, but it was what I had. Through the glass, the small empty trap sat among the tubs with its opening aimed at the room. Leon reached for the dock lights. One row went dark, then the next. The bait floor disappeared in sections until only the gray afternoon showed through the windows. He turned off the last light and stood in the dark beyond the tanks. I held the gaff with both hands. For a moment, I couldn't see him at all. Then his shape moved behind the glass, coming toward the tank room. The light outside had gone from gray to blue by the time Leon reached the tank room. I had been sitting with the gaff across my knees for almost 2 hours, listening to the building and watching his shape move behind the glass. He walked slowly along the bait floor, passing the barrels and the small trap, and then coming back again. Every few steps, he leaned forward and tapped his forehead against the tank wall. Thunk. He straightened up and kept walking. Thunk. The sound was always the same. It came through the glass with a dull, hollow weight, and after a while I started expecting it before he moved. I had expected the door to open, or Luna to come back with Connie and the police, but no one came. The dock road stayed empty. The office by the harbor stayed dark. Leon stopped in front of the tank.
Frayed, not cut, cousin.
He tapped his forehead against the glass. Thunk. I kept both hands on the gaff. The metal shaft was cold against my palms, and my shoulders hurt from holding it ready for so long. The rear door was behind me and to the left, partly blocked by the nearest tank. I could see the handle through the glass if I leaned forward, but I couldn't reach it without turning away from Leon. He walked past me again.
Frayed, not cut, cousin.
Thunk. The glass didn't move. I kept waiting for it to crack, but he never hit it hard enough to do anything. He only tapped his forehead against the pane and continued along the room like he had all night. I wanted him to speak normally. I wanted him to make a joke about the gaff, or tell me I was making a fool of myself, or call me cousin in the way he always had when I got too close to something dangerous. I would have understood that better than the tapping. "Stay away from me," I said. He stopped with his forehead almost touching the glass.
You know me.
"That isn't Leon." His mouth pulled into a small smile.
You keep saying that.
"You came out of the trap."
Frayed, not cut, cousin.
He tapped the glass again. Thunk. I glanced toward the rear door. The handle was still visible. If I moved along the wall, I could get to it, but the tank glass ran between us and the bait floor, and there wasn't enough room behind me to turn the gaff without striking the wall. I had to wait until he moved away. Leon pressed his fingers against the glass. The tips were pale and flattened where they touched it. His nails looked clean, but there was black grit caught in the creases around his knuckles.
You're tired.
He said, "I'm not tired.
You've been sitting there a long time.
I'm waiting for help."
Help isn't coming.
I looked at the road through the rear window. Nothing moved outside. The sky had darkened over the harbor, and the last light made the broken lines of the dock look farther away than they were. Leon dragged his hand down the glass. His fingers squeaked against the wet pane.
You should come out, cousin.
No,
You don't need the hook.
I'm keeping it.
You always did like holding on to things.
I didn't answer him. The small trap sat on the floor near the wall behind me. I had pushed it away when Leon first moved it into the room, but the line attached to the top had caught around one of the tank legs. The wire opening faced toward my boots. Leon walked past the glass again, slower this time. Thunk,
Frayed, not cut, cousin.
thunk. The room smelled like old seawater and bait. There was still a dead cat somewhere on the other side of the glass, though I couldn't see it from where I sat. The smell grew stronger as the evening went on and mixed with the sour water in the empty tanks. I had started thinking that maybe the glass would hold. It was thick, and the tanks had been built to keep lobsters from breaking out. Leon had already tried the door and found it locked. If he kept walking, maybe he would run out of patience. He stopped at the middle tank and put both hands against the pane. For a second, he only leaned there. Then he pressed his shoulder into it. The glass made a low, creaking sound. The tank wall shifted in its frame, and water sloshed somewhere inside the tank beside me. I pulled my feet up as far as I could and raised the gaff. "Get back." Leon leaned harder. The frame groaned. A thin white line appeared across the glass near his shoulder. It spread toward the corner in two quick branches. "Leon, get away from it." He turned his face toward me. His forehead rested against the pane, and his eyes stayed open.
Frayed, not cut, cousin.
The glass broke inward. It didn't burst all at once. The middle bowed toward me, then folded into sharp pieces as Leon came through it. Seawater hit the floor with him. Lobsters, bait, and pieces of glass came with it. The water struck my legs and knocked me sideways into the corner. The gaff slipped from my hands. I grabbed for the tank frame, but the metal tore through my palm. The cold, heavy water kept pouring over my boots and dragging the small trap across the floor. Lobsters struck my knees and crawled over my legs, their shells knocking against the glass and wire. Bait floated around me in pale strips. Leon came through the broken tank wall on his hands and knees. Glass hung from his shirt and shoulders. Water ran off his face, and he looked calm, like he had only stepped through a doorway. I pushed the trap away when it reached my boots. The wire scraped across my shin. I caught the top handle and shoved it toward the rear door, but Leon grabbed my jacket. "Let go." He pulled me across the flooded floor. My back hit the corner, and one of the lobsters caught my jeans with its claw. I kicked at it and felt the fabric tear. Leon's hand closed around my upper arm.
You're coming with me, cousin.
No. The trap moved beside us, dragging through the water. I held onto its frame with one hand while Leon pulled with the other. The opening caught against my boot, and I jammed my foot against it to keep it from reaching my legs. He pulled harder. The water rose around my hips. Broken glass moved across the floor and cut through my hands whenever I shifted my weight. I tried to reach the rear door, but Leon had me pinned between the corner and the trap.
Frayed, not cut, cousin.
He said. He dragged me another foot. I felt the gaff strike my ankle. It had settled beneath the water near the broken tank, its handle pointing toward me. I released the trap and reached into the water. Leon pulled my arm away from it. I reached again and caught the shaft with my fingers. The metal slid out of my grip once, then I hooked my hand around it and pulled. The gaff came free from beneath the water. Leon saw it. He let go of my arm and reached for my throat. I brought the gaff up between us. The hook caught him beneath the jaw, but he kept coming. His hand closed around the back of my neck and drove me against the wall. I could smell the bait on him. It was the same smell from the shed, fish and salt and something rotten underneath. I pulled the gaff toward me. The hook dug into his throat. He didn't bleed. The skin opened around the metal, but there was no red in it. The edges pulled apart like wet paper, and a pale layer showed beneath. I pushed harder. The point went through his throat and came out the other side. His hand tightened around my neck, cutting off my breath. The gaff shaft shook between us. "Let go," I said. He looked at me. "Let go of me." His fingers stayed closed. I drove the gaff forward again, using both hands. The point punched deeper, and the skin around his neck split open without making a wet sound. There was still no blood. His face stayed fixed in Leon's shape, but the skin had started to loosen around it. The pressure on my neck disappeared. Leon's hand fell into the water. He stepped backward, though I hadn't pushed him. The skin along his face separated from his jaw and hung there in pale folds. His shirt opened down the front, and the body beneath it came apart in long strips, like a rind peeling from something soft. The anchor on his forearm slid away with the skin. It landed beside the small trap and floated there. Its dark shape showed through the seawater. The arm beneath it was gone. The rest of him collapsed around the trap in pieces, pale skin and black grit spreading across the floor. The gaff dropped from my hands. I stayed against the wall and breathed hard while the water moved around my waist. The pale pieces drifted past my legs. Some of them caught on the wire of the trap, and the dark grit gathered in the corners where the floor dipped. I didn't know if he was dead. I didn't know if there was anything left that could stand up. The rear door was still shut, but the broken tank had cleared the path. I pushed myself across the floor and crawled toward it. Glass cut my hands again, and I almost fell when my knee struck the trap. The tattooed scrap turned in the water beside me, the anchor facing upward. I didn't touch it. The bolt on the rear door was above my shoulder. I reached for it twice before my fingers found the handle. It took both hands to pull it open. Cold air rushed through the room, and seawater ran over the threshold onto the dock. I crawled through the doorway and fell onto the boards outside. For a while I couldn't move. My clothes were soaked through, and the cuts in my hands stung whenever I pressed them against the dock. Blood ran down my wrists and mixed with the water beneath me. Behind me, the tank room stayed open and broken. Seawater continued to spill through the shattered glass and carry bait and broken pieces across the floor. The small trap lay on its side in the wreckage, surrounded by pale rind, black grit, and the scrap of skin with Leon's anchor tattoo. The rear door was still shut, but the wrecked tank no longer blocked the way. Salt water ran through the shattered glass, carrying bait and broken pieces across the floor. The small trap lay amid the wreckage, with pale rind, black grit, and the scrap of skin bearing Leon's anchor tattoo around it. I stayed on the dock with my face against the boards until I heard cars coming up the harbor road. The first one stopped hard enough that the tires slipped on the gravel. Another followed it, then another, and doors opened all around the harbor. Luna came toward me first. She was wearing the same jacket she had left in, pulled tight around her body, and Connie was behind her with Remy. A state police cruiser stopped near the office, its lights turning across the buildings without making the place any brighter. Christian came around the front of it. His uniform told me he was a state trooper, and he walked toward the broken door without looking at anyone for permission. He was lean, with gray eyes that moved from me to the building beside the dock and then to the tank room. He stopped several feet from where I lay.
Where is Leon's body?
I tried to sit up. My arms shook beneath me, and one of the cuts in my palm opened again against the boards. He isn't in there.
Where is he?
I don't know. Christian looked through the open rear door. The water had spread across the dock and pooled under the building. Bait floated in it, along with pieces of glass and the dark scraps that had come off the thing wearing Leon's skin.
I asked where he is.
The thing took him. Luna stepped closer.
Kingston, stop.
Christian looked at her.
You said he told you Leon was not Leon.
He's been saying it since yesterday.
she said.
He called me twice, then stopped answering.
I didn't stop answering, I said. I had to get away from him.
From Leon?
From what came out of the trap. Christian paused before writing something in the small notebook he had taken from his coat.
Start at the beginning.
He said.
Leave nothing out.
I already told them.
Tell me.
I pushed myself up onto one elbow. The dock boards were cold beneath my ribs, and I could feel blood running down my wrist into the sleeve of my shirt. The line was frayed clean through. Leon said we should drop the string, but then he opened the trap.
Which trap?
The small one. It was on the boat.
What happened after he opened it?
I looked toward the harbor. The Marguerite remained at the berth, her lines tied, her wheelhouse dark, and her deck wet from the spray. Something came out.
What something?
I don't know.
You said it had Leon's face.
It looked like him, but it wasn't him. Christian glanced at Luna. She shook her head. It came out of the trap, I said. Leon went over the rail. The other one came back to the harbor.
Did you see Leon go over the rail?
Yes.
Did you see him after that?
No.
Then where is his body?
I told you, I don't know. Christian looked past me again, toward the tank room.
You were alone with him?
I was with the other one.
And you attacked him?
He attacked me.
There is blood on the dock, blood inside the tank room, and a damaged tank with a gaff lying beside it.
He looked back at me.
Where is Leon's body?
I didn't kill Leon.
You said he went overboard.
He did.
From where?
Near Seguin.
On June 25th?
I nodded. The thing in the trap had his face. It followed me back. Christian wrote that down too.
So you're saying Leon went overboard on June 25th, and you didn't report it?
I tried to tell people.
You told Luna that Leon was a creature.
I told her what I saw.
You told your mother the same thing?
She didn't believe me.
Did you contact anyone else?
Pedro knew the line was frayed.
Pedro saw Leon after June 25th?
I didn't answer right away. I could still see Pedro standing beside the office with his clipboard, looking at the small trap before he turned away. Christian watched me.
Did he?
Yes.
So Leon returned to the harbor after he went overboard?
Not Leon. Christian closed the notebook.
You understand how that sounds.
I know how this sounds.
You've been repeating that for more than a day.
Because it's true. Luna's voice rose behind him.
He killed Leon.
I turned toward her. No,
You took him out there and dumped him off Seguin.
I didn't.
You were the only one with him.
The other Leon was with me,
Stop saying that.
she shouted.
There was no other Leon.
He came out of the trap.
You made that up because you wanted an excuse.
Her face had gone red, and for the first time since she arrived, she looked afraid, though she seemed angry about it.
You drowned him and then invented some monster so nobody would ask where he was.
I didn't kill him.
Where is his body then?
I looked toward the room where the tank had been. It was never a body. Luna took another step toward me.
You're talking about my husband.
I know.
You watched him go overboard and left him there.
He opened the trap.
You left him there.
I tried to stop him. Christian moved between us.
Luna, stay back.
He killed Leon.
She said.
He killed his own cousin, and now he's standing here blaming him for it.
Connie had reached the dock by then. She stopped beside Remy, both of them looking at the broken tank room. Mom kept one hand pressed against the front of her cardigan. Dad had the envelope of Lobster money in his coat pocket, the same envelope he had taken back before everything happened. "Mom," I said. She looked at me, then at Christian. "Is he hurt?"
He has several cuts.
Christian said.
An ambulance is coming.
"I don't need an ambulance. You need your hands looked at," Mom said. "I need you to believe me." She lowered her eyes. She had asked me to come home, and I had refused. She had heard me say that Leon was not Leon, and now she was standing in front of the wreckage with blood on the dock and no Leon anywhere. "What happened to him?" she asked. "He went overboard." "Kingston." "The real Leon went overboard." Remy took the envelope from his pocket. He held it out to me without looking at my face.
"This is mine.
I stared at the money. "Dad."
You were supposed to finish the season and pay me back.
"I will."
There isn't a season now.
He put the envelope in the inside pocket of his coat. The movement was careful and ordinary. Christian's radio made a sharp sound. He turned away to answer it. though I could still hear pieces of the conversation. They had searched the room. There was no intact body. The dead cat was beneath the barrels, and the blood on the floor matched the cuts in my hands. Someone had found the skin. Christian came back a few minutes later with the scrap sealed in a clear bag. The tattoo showed through it, dark and curved beneath the torn skin. I had watched it slide from the thing's arm and float beside the trap. Christian held the bag at eye level.
This is a tattoo?
Yes.
Whose?
Leon's.
Could it be someone else's?
No. He looked at the bag for a long time.
The identification came back.
I didn't understand. Already?
It matches Leon.
That doesn't mean I killed him.
The tissue is his.
The thing was wearing him. Christian's expression didn't change.
You're admitting you cut him with the gaff.
You are admitting that you cut him with the gaff. I cut the thing.
He struck Leon in the throat.
No.
You said the gaff went through his neck.
The skin came off.
You said he had no blood.
He wasn't human. Christian shut the bag in his hand.
He wasn't human.
Christian shut the bag in his hand.
I can't put that in a report as anything but a hallucination.
It wasn't a hallucination.
We've got evidence that you and Leon were alone on the water. Leon disappeared. We found you injured beside a damaged tank with his skin in the room.
I didn't put it there.
Then tell me where his body is.
I had no answer that would make him stop asking. The real Leon had gone overboard because he wanted to open the trap. He had broken his own rule. If a line came apart, we dropped it. He had said it many times, but when the trap came up, he had reached for it anyway. I had watched him fall. The thing that came back had his face, his voice, and the anchor-shaped tattoo on its arm. It had crossed the dock and drunk bait brine from the barrel while the real Leon drowned beyond the ledge. I had known that from the beginning. I had just kept hoping that knowing it would be enough. Christian reached for my wrists.
You're being taken into custody while we investigate Leon's disappearance.
I didn't disappear him.
You can explain that at the station.
I already explained it.
Start at the beginning and leave nothing out.
I told you the beginning. He secured one wrist, then the other. The metal was cold, and the cuts in my hands made it hard to keep them still. Luna was by the road with her arms crossed.
Tell them what you did.
She said. I didn't do anything to Leon.
You drowned him.
I didn't.
You killed him and made up a creature.
Connie looked at the ground. Remy watched the boat. Neither of them said anything. Christian guided me toward the cruiser. I kept turning my head back toward the building because I expected the thing to come through the broken tank room again. The floor was empty except for the water, the dead cat, and the pale pieces caught against the wire. The Marguerite stayed where we had left her. The frayed line hung over the side and dipped into the harbor water, the softened strands moving with each pull of the tide. The empty trap was still aboard, tipped against the regular gear with its opening facing the stern. I stopped walking for a moment. Christian's hand tightened around my arm.
Keep moving.
I looked at the boat until the cruiser door opened behind me. There was no one on the deck. No one stood in the wheelhouse. Then Christian put me inside, and the harbor kept the boat.